to Barnaby Joyce this morning. You know him very well, I'm sure. He was at a mine in Lake Macquarie. He's called your plan Pixie Economics, is it?
Well, I'm not going to get into his wacky maths. This is about cheaper energy, this is about more investment, and this is about jobs for the bush. So while Barnaby Joyce wants to line up with the big energy companies that want to protect their super profits, I'm lining up with the mums and dads and the businesses of New South Wales that want to see some of the cheapest electricity in the world. And that's exactly what this plan will deliver.
Well, we'll get to the economics of it and the modelling in a moment. But the fact that this is so controversial is a problem in itself, isn't it? Because it does undermine what's necessary here, and that is certainty.
There's nothing controversial about creating thousands of new jobs, particularly in the bush. There's nothing controversial about seeing billions of dollars worth of new investment coming into our economy. $58 billion worth of new investment this policy will deliver. And there's certainly nothing controversial about delivering New South Wales the cheapest, most reliable energy anywhere on the planet. What that means, getting electricity prices down to the top 3 in the world, which is what our modelling shows, means that we can be not only an energy superpower, but an economic superpower. And that's too big an opportunity to pass up.
Are renewables cheaper than coal at the moment?
Well, it's just not about renewable energy, it's about reliable energy. And right now, the cheapest way to power our electricity system is a combination of wind, solar, pumped hydro, batteries and gas. That's not me saying that, Laura. That's the CSIRO. That's the Australian Energy Market Operator, the independent operator of our electricity system. So what this is about is making decisions based on the engineering and the economics, not the ideology and the idiocy.
Well, we've heard from Angus Taylor. We spoke to him earlier this week, and he says your plan will risk higher prices. Where is he getting that from?
Well, what Angus is concerned about is dispatchable energy coming out of the system before it's due, and that's exactly what I'm concerned about. Our plan is about putting in place the market signals and the regulatory settings that will encourage the private sector to build the infrastructure we need to keep the lights on and drive prices down. We saw, and your viewers know this, Laura, that when Hazelwood closed in Victoria, electricity prices went up in New South Wales by 60% because existing infrastructure came out of the system before it was replaced. We cannot afford to let that happen again. That's why this plan is about facilitating the orderly transition from old infrastructure to new infrastructure to keep the lights on and drive those electricity prices down.
Well, you've this week been pretty forward, I would say, in really wanting to spruik your plan and criticising those that don't agree with you. Who were you referring to when you said there's others on the side of vested interests? Are you referring to colleagues at a federal level?
Well, I'm talking about the vested interests that want to see sky-high electricity prices because it props up their balance sheet. Or I'm talking about the big energy companies, and I'm talking about the defenders of those big energy companies. You know, when Pauline Hanson's One Nation leader here in New South Wales, Mark Latham, had the opportunity to stand up for battlers, had the opportunity to stand up for the bush, he stood up for big businesses and higher electricity prices. We stared them down, Laura, 30 hours of debate, bringing together all parts of the parliament, independents, the Labor Party, the Greens, the Animal Justice Party, the Christian Democrats, the Liberal Party and the National Party, who all wanted cheaper electricity, all wanted to make sure we had a modern electricity system that would see us become an energy and economic superpower, and that's what we achieved yesterday, Laura.
All right, well, what do you and Angus Taylor disagree on at the moment? Because there is some angst between both levels of government. You're on the same side of politics, but he wants to see your roadmap. He wants to see the modelling, and you haven't released it.
We've released all the modelling. In fact, what we've done, Laura, is we've used one of the best energy economics modellers in the country, in fact, in the world, Aurora Energy, who are a spin-off out of Oxford University. They've looked at this plan, they've modelled it, and they've shown that we will deliver some of the cheapest electricity anywhere in the world. In fact, we'll be in the top 3 in the OECD. And what that means, if you're an energy-intensive industry, heavy manufacturing, smeltering, steel making, you're looking for that cheap electricity. Those companies, instead of moving offshore, will be looking to move onshore, set up shop here in New South Wales, creating thousands of jobs. And as I said, setting ourselves up for a prosperous future right here in New South Wales. We will not only lead the country here, Laura, we will lead the world.
What about the coal miners? What about those that do work at those coal-fired power stations in New South Wales, of which there are more than 5, I believe? What are you doing to help them transition?
those coal workers are so important to our economy. And let's be very clear about this. This plan doesn't affect them. 80% of coal jobs in New South Wales are for the export of coal. Those jobs won't be affected at all by this plan. What we do know is that 4 of our 5 existing power stations in New South Wales are coming to the end of their lives. It's got nothing to do with climate change. It's just the fact they were built in the 70s and they're coming to the end of their lives.
Would argue that the only reason renewables are viable is because they're propped up by governments like yours. Is that true?
What this discussion is about is making sure that the existing infrastructure we rely on to get our electricity, which is coming to the end of its life, is replaced before it closes. And we do that because we need to avoid price spikes and blackouts. So this has got nothing to do with renewables or how we generate electricity. It's about making sure that we've got the generation, the firming and the storage and transmission that we need to transition our electricity system and ensure we keep those prices down and keep the lights on. This is about economics and engineering. It's not about ideology, Laura.
What does Joe Biden presidency mean for Australia, do you think? He's made it very clear and unambiguously, quote unquote, that climate change is at the centre of his presidency. John Kerry says he's going to be asking other countries to be more ambitious.
What it means is the world is moving. With Joe Biden now in the White House, what it means is 70% of Australia's two-way trade is with countries that have committed to achieving net zero emissions by the mid this century. And the thing about that, Laura, is that those markets, which have underwritten Australia's prosperity for generations, are going to change the goods and services that they require from us. So we need to get ahead of the curve. We need to go and grab these opportunities and make sure that the next generation can enjoy the prosperity that we have enjoyed. And that's what this plan is all about.